If you watched my last video where I discussed the Smash roster surviving in a zombie apocalypse, no, you're not experiencing deja vu. You also don't have to watch that one to understand this one, so fret not, though I would appreciate it if you watched both. In the previous video we discussed our scenario A where outbreaks happened within each character's respective universes. They had access to everything their worlds offer as well as the help of other characters if applicable. It also led to some unique situations only an outbreak on their world could do. This time I want to look at scenario B where each character is sent to our real world if we had an apocalyptic zombie plague wipe out humanity. In this situation, they are alone and can only bring their armor or equipment they have on them. This time there's no transportation, no allies, no familiar locations, and no hope. Some characters take a big downgrade not being able to just hop planets on their spaceship or have their entire JRPG party assist them. In terms of zombies, call them infected if you want. We are sticking with the traditional zombies from most zombie media. They can turn you with a bite and you can only kill them by destroying the brain. And if you die from other circumstances, you will revive as one of them. We're also going to say these zombies can be faster ones like the Dawn of the Dead remake because I want to piss off people that hate fast zombies and because it's more interesting. Also, like The Walking Dead, animals can't be turned, but our animal characters can still die by a bite, otherwise there's not much challenge here. The fact there aren't other Pokemon, aliens, monsters, or Pikmin on our world actually benefits many characters compared to the previous video. Our characters will have to contend not only with the undead horde, but other survivors, survivals such as shelter, eating, or medical needs, and their own unfamiliarity with our world. Since Mii's aren't concrete characters and are stand-ins for whoever we make, I won't be discussing them today. The categories for our tier list and their explanations are as follows. Can't be turned is for characters whose biology or durability is too vast for a standard human zombie to infect. No airborne pathogens, magic, or contaminated food or water supplies here. Avoids danger means that, while not immune, the characters avoid the plague threat by some means. Runs the apocalypse was kind of unofficially just for the bad guys last video, like they would take advantage of the world having gone to shit and run it. Think Randall Flagg from The Stand or Dennis Hopper in Land of the Dead.
Give me that Devo gun!
Again? What is this?
Monkey!
Now, that's another dystopian world he ran when he helped kill Nintendo's desire to make another Mario movie for like 30 years. Anyways, I've expanded it to include any character that would rise up and lead like a John Connor figure. Thrives means that the characters have no real threat to their lives and can adjust to the new status quo well. Survives means that while it might be a struggle, they make it through. Think most survivors years into any post-apocalyptic world. Dies to other circumstances is specifically for characters that can maybe handle the zombies, but they lack key elements to survive. Not knowing how to hunt or get food, for example, maybe they die in an altercation with another group, they don't know how to treat an injury, etc. Zombie chow is reserved for characters that pretty much have no chance, they're probably getting eaten. Finally, the question marks is for characters that I don't know how things work, like if they can or can't get infected. Some updates to the last video I want to make thanks to some comments from viewers. Lucas gets a bump up from dies to other circumstances to thrives. His island he lives on has low population density and most people there have learned to live off the land. He even grew up on a farm himself. Ness can teleport pretty much wherever he wants whenever he wants, so he goes into avoids danger. Someone mentioned that PSI Cure can handle any sickness in the game. I think I'm gonna say it doesn't cure a zombie bite in this case because I make the rules and I'm a pouty baby. After learning more about how Pyra and Mithra work, they get moved to Can't Be Turned as they can't get sick and can regenerate their bodies. Though if Rex dies or gets infected, they may fall dormant once again. Jigglypuff gets bumped down to Zombie Chow as there are plenty of Pokemon immune to sleep or sound-based attacks. While Pokemon trainers and Pokemon could band together and make survivor settlements with decent defenses, these characters themselves are still very much at risk. Something else I didn't mention is it's possible Rock and Steel Pokemon could be immune as they don't have flesh to bite. Some anyways, it depends on the Pokemon. Steel is immune to poison, so maybe it's possible they may be immune to infection as well. Ghost Pokemon similarly don't all have tangible bodies and are like maybe sorta kinda dead already? Some have suggested poison type should be immune too, but I think a virus is different than venom and toxins. Lucario is part steel type, but also pretty fleshy, so maybe it's best left where it is. I've been saying for multiple videos now that I don't think there's a canon main Yoshi, but that's actually incorrect. In Yoshi's Island DS, we learn about the Star Children, basically all the main characters from the series, and there is a specific green Yoshi among them. This Yoshi goes up to thrives as it would likely be with Mario, Luigi, and Peach in the castle. Also, someone said that Mario could use his ships and get everyone to safety, possibly even off-planet. Honorable mention goes to Olimar and Alf. A commenter said that they get bit by things in-game and it doesn't puncture the suit. I still think that they'd get them if they were vicious and hungry enough, but it's still worth mentioning. Here's something I think we need to nip in the bud right now. I had someone say that Zelda is a Link to the Past Zelda, not a Link Between Worlds. So yes, the design is closest to past, I won't argue that. The official Smash page on Nintendo's website calls her the Zelda from A Link Between Worlds. Some people say it's a mistranslation because they call it her Triforce of the Gods outfit in Japanese. Just to be petty and pedantic, Worlds is called Triforce of the Gods 2 in Japanese. I know some may say the 2 is the deciding factor, but it could be that. Much like the Pokemon anime has jelly donuts, Poison from Final Fight has changed gender multiple times officially, and the 2 lesbians from Sailor Moon are cousins to 90s kids. The official English translation says A Link Between Worlds, so that's why I'm saying she's that one for future reference. I acknowledge that it's probably wrong, but I'm using A Link Between Worlds going forward. Steve and Alex can make their home base in the sky or other dimensions according to people that have actually played the game. Who knew? They get bumped up into avoids danger. Maybe? I don't know, man. There's been multiple possibilities for people to avoid danger, but my counter-argument is, just because they can doesn't mean they will. I mean, like, logically Mario could fly to space on his ship and Steve and Alex could go live in another dimension, but crippling loneliness, depression, and being bored are enough to make people do stupid things. Either we examine them as video game characters and think, that's what I would do if I was in a game to win, or we look at them as characters with personalities and flaws. Let's pretend Luigi has a pet dog. Who's to say zombies wouldn't get into Peach's castle because Luigi's dog got out and he stupidly unbarricaded the door to retrieve it, dooming everyone? Peach and Mario could get off-world, but it's in them to try and save as many innocents as possible. Maybe they could use the Odyssey to travel around the world and try and rescue people, but do you think Peach is really going to turn her back on her subjects? I mean, come on. Not logical, but not everyone would be unless they're as uninteresting and flat as Mr. Game & Watch. Do you get where I'm coming from? I try to look at things based on what I think a character would do, not necessarily what they could do. Back to the corrections, a commenter mentioned that Joker has access to his abilities in the waking world, at least to some extent. I don't know how much the personas can manifest, so being conservative with the estimate will give him a bump up from Zombie Chow to survives. For anyone saying that Doomguy and Isabelle are canonically married and he would protect her, how many of you have autism? Did you get officially diagnosed? Can you not tell Bethesda is in on the joke, or do you really not understand social cues? It's okay, little buddy, I'm rooting for you. Don't forget to take your Ritalin or Vyvanse, there's a high likelihood you're on one of those too.
Mario!
This is like deja vu with my counting video. Mario doesn't have access to all of his power-ups or allies he had in the Mushroom Kingdom. He's tough, strong, extremely athletic, and has dealt with large groups of enemies before. Mario's had many professions in his life, so I think he's got things like shelter, food, and medical attention in the bag. Don't forget, he's also
Dr. Mario!
I think he would make quick friends with other survivors and would be a valuable ally for supply runs. Could he survive an assault from an AK-47? Doubtful, but if Rick Grimes survived an explosion and being shot at multiple times, Mario should be able to thrive.
Donkey Kong!
Unlike in the previous video where DK would be having to contend with zombie Kongs and other monstrous threats, human zombies wouldn't prove to be nearly as much of a threat. The thing is though, now he's got to worry not only about his food supply, but humans with guns. K-Rool's blunderbuss is a squirt gun compared to a Barrett M82 50 cal. I don't know if a zombie's bite is strong enough to pierce DK's hide, so I think he would die to other circumstances.
Link!
This Link has proven he can live outdoors easily by himself as well as prepare his own food. He can turn almost anything into a weapon and has insane athleticism, combat prowess, and can hit like a champ. His vast arsenal of powers and items will guarantee he thrives at the very least. Daruk's protection makes him briefly invulnerable, which is great, but it doesn't last forever. As a character who doesn't have much to say and pretty much fights alone, I don't know if Link would rise up to become the leader of any communities or if he could even communicate with the people. Is Hylian even the same language as English? Samus doesn't get access to her ship here, so she's stranded on Earth. Her power suit is technically organic, but much like a zombie can't turn a plant or tofu, I don't think her suit could get infected. Not that a zombie would be able to bite it anyways. I know in lore they say Samus needs to keep concentration and have the suit active at all times, so I doubt she could just use it while sleeping. Oh wait, in Dread, Ravenbeak knocks her unconscious and she wakes up still in the suit, so I guess we could probably ignore that last point, though I'm sure it's not that comfortable to sleep in. Samus can go underwater seemingly indefinitely to escape things on the surface, though that could have its own scary implications. Samus doesn't have much to say that isn't boring internal monologue, so who's to say if she would lead a community? Her power suit alone likely makes her immune not only to zombies but also weapons fire. I don't know what the upper limit of her suit is, but I think I still feel comfortable putting her in avoids danger. Now what happens if she somehow loses her power suit completely?
Zero Suit Samus!
All the points I'm going to make here also can apply to regular Samus, it's just Zero Suit Samus doesn't get all the benefits that I previously mentioned. Unlike in my last video where her suit didn't matter because she could just fly away, in this circumstance, Samus' suit is huge in determining her tier placement. This isn't to say that she's helpless, far from it. Now, while there was nothing stopping her from taking off her suit in the previous entry, why would she? She's been shown to remove just her helmet before, so she could do that to eat and drink. Now in this situation, she doesn't have a choice. Tell me people wouldn't want to follow the attractive tall blonde woman who's a superhuman instead of the alien-looking android or robot they may presume she was before. She's somehow more agile without the suit and has a high-powered stun gun that would likely be fatal for humans versus the much stronger space pirates. If we include her boots and whip from Smash, she's even more of a force to be reckoned with. Though she's not invincible, I think she has what it takes to run the apocalypse.
Dark Samus.
Does Dark Samus need Phazon to survive, or is it just to increase power and regenerate? Assuming she doesn't need to feed off of it regularly, she's basically a being of pure energy. She can't be turned. If she does need Phazon, then without a supply on Earth, she'll eventually perish that way, dying to other circumstances. I'm going with option 1 for my own headcanon.
Yoshi.
Yoshis are basically really intelligent animals on par with humans. As such, I'm sure that they have survival on lock. The thing is, I doubt they have the skills to fortify a location or deal with invading groups. While they have lots of physical advantages and can probably escape human zombies, I think they'd die to other circumstances. But only because I believe humans would hunt them.
Raccoon City sounds lovely!
Kirby can't be turned. Even if he could, do you think anything has a powerful enough bite force to be able to turn this Lovecraftian abomination?
Fox. Falcon. Wolf.
I'm lumping all three together as there really isn't a real advantage or disadvantage between them, other than maybe Wolf's peripheral vision. All Star Fox characters lose their get-out-of-jail-free cards by not getting their ships and vehicles. They have various guns available to them as well as reflector shields. Being anthropomorphic animals, they also have enhanced senses to detect danger. Falco should have impeccable eyesight, and Fox and Wolf have their hearing and smell. I think it's safe to put them all into thrives.
Pikachu. Pichu.
I'm lumping these two together as well. Based on in-game stats and movesets, obviously Pikachu has every advantage, but as small as Pikachu really is, Pichu is even tinier, giving it even more hiding options. I honestly don't think a zombie or most humans could catch or kill either of them, and they're much more intelligent than animals, so I think it's easy to put them into thrives.
Luigi.
Luigi has basically the same construction background as Mario and is actually probably even more physically adept. The thing is, he doesn't have some of the other skills Mario has, medical experience being a big one, and he's much more easily frightened. He only puts himself in danger when absolutely necessary, which can be a good thing in certain situations, don't get me wrong. I think the negatives, though, bring Luigi down to survives compared to his brother.
Ness. Lucas.
I'm gonna group these together because why not? I know Ness can teleport, but it's limited to places that he's visited already, which in this world is gonna be few and far between unless he can survive long enough. And I honestly don't think he has the essential survival skills to survive this harsh world, so I think he dies to other circumstances. Lucas, on the other hand, has the advantage of Mind Shock, which could help him confuse any hostile humans that pose a threat. And he also has a lot more experience with taking care of himself and living on a farm. His dad's no phone, mind you, just absent, but he still could probably survive.
Captain Falcon.
No Blue Falcon to save him here. He can run extremely fast, is tall and athletic, and can fight if we take his smash moves into consideration. Maybe he can woo the ladies and get into survivors groups that way.
If it's true, don't leave me all alone out here, wondering if you're ever gonna take me there. Tell me what you're feeling, 'cause I need to know. Girl, you gotta let me know.
I imagine his reaction speed would be absolutely insane based on how fast the F-Zero races are. I don't know if he'd have essential survival skills, being that he's a bounty hunter and a race car driver, but I'll still put him into survives.
Jigglypuff.
So unlike zombie Pokemon that can't be put to sleep by Jigglypuff, Jigglypuff can absolutely put hostile people to sleep, and can fully rest and heal itself. So far, these are good advantages. Does Sing work on zombies? I don't know the definitive answer to that, but I would assume since they're never shown sleeping in pretty much any media, probably not. I know sometimes they go into like a state of hibernation or something, but that's a little different. It might even be able to use its cuteness to get in with the surviving group, but it could also make it a target for food. Having no good ranged options, I think it sits and dies to other circumstances.
Peach. Daisy.
These two get lumped together. While they are athletic and have that weird floaty magic, they were pampered princesses their whole life and likely haven't had to do much for themselves. I'm sure they would be immediate zombie chow if they don't get in with a survivor group ASAP.
Bowser.
All in favor of Bowser going and runs the apocalypse? I mean, I think his fire breath, spike shell, and tough scales are enough to keep most at bay. If a giant fire-breathing dragon turtle tells you that you have the choice of serving him or die, what would you choose?
Ice climbers.
Anna and Popo are used to living in frigid, frozen conditions. It's probable that they could try and go to somewhere like Canada, Russia, Greenland, Scandinavia, or Antarctica. Not only is the climate they are used to, but they have the advantage of the natural freezing and snow to slow down or even freeze zombies altogether. If it's Antarctica somehow, they also don't have to worry about zombies. Humans, at least. Where were we with the zombie polar bears and zombie penguins again? I think I decided against animal zombies. I didn't exactly set a specific location they'd be teleported to upon reaching our world, so I guess they better hope they don't appear in Arizona, I suppose. If they can get to a cold climate, I think they survive.
Sheik.
This is Ocarina of Time Zelda, so she has had about 7 years of having to hide and survive against Ganondorf and his forces who are actively hunting her. She also has insane athleticism and access to the Triforce of Wisdom. At this point, I believe zombies would be par for the course for her. Having grown up watching her father run the country, she would naturally have leadership skills. I think as someone with the Triforce of Wisdom and the skills she possesses, she's definitely one to run the apocalypse.
Zelda.
Remember what I said in the intro that this is Zelda from A Link Between Worlds? Unfortunately, she does not have near the resume that Ocarina's Zelda does. So let's see what we have to work with. She lacks the Triforce of Wisdom as, spoiler alert, Link and Zelda use it to wish back Lorule's own Triforce. Lorule is like an alternate or mirror world to Hyrule run by Princess Hilda. Her world's Triforce was destroyed and turned everything to shit, setting off the events of that game. She never really had to fend for herself, having servants that can do all that for her. In fact, she spent almost the entire game trapped in a portrait, so I don't think she really has feats to speak of. This may seem like blasphemy, but I think she kind of has to go into zombie chow. I know she has leadership skills, but that's not saving her here.
Marth. Roy. Chrom.
I group these three together as they all have very similar life experience. As leaders of nations and commanders of armies, they all have what it takes to lead a group of survivors and even have practical combat experience against any hostile groups. Since we don't have to worry about any zombie wyverns or zombie mages here, I think they should have an easier time surviving. Human zombies won't prove to be as threatening in comparison. Being royalty though, I don't know how well they learned to scavenge or fortify barricades and whatnot, but with their uncanny ability to recruit people into their armies, I think it's likely they definitely survive with a community. Chrom specifically has experience handling undead-like enemies known as the Risen, so that's a bonus. I'm going to break the numbering streak for a couple entries and talk about more of the Fire Emblem characters. They all kind of are in a similar boat.
Robin.
Robin in particular has experience against the Risen like Chrom, but they also have magic tomes for extra ranged options. Their capabilities as strategists make them a valued asset for any survivor group, so I think they also survive.
Corrin.
Corrin grew up a pampered noble, so survival skills are on the weaker side here. On the other hand, they're also leaders and amazing negotiators. If the Revelation path in Fates is considered the canon one, they brought two warring nations together to unite against an unseen threat. They also recruited many warriors from both sides into their army. Also, they can straight up turn into a dragon. Unlike in the last video where they only went and thrive, I think they have what it takes to run the apocalypse.
Ike. Violet.
These two grew up living as mercenaries, living on the road and off the land. They can handle themselves on the survival front. Ike's Grail mercenaries are some of the most adept fighters and ruthless warriors around. Violet themselves have mastered multiple types of weapons. As master warriors, I think the undead don't really stand a chance. As leaders, they both are very capable of managing other survivors to protect them. Ike may have a harder time as he prefers a smaller tight-knit group he can trust. They definitely both thrive though.
Lucina.
Lucina has the single most experience living in a post-apocalyptic hellhole compared to any other Fire Emblem character. Hell, maybe any other Smash character other than possibly Sheik. In her future, spoiler alert, Chrom was killed by Robin and no one could stop the fell dragon Grima from taking over the world. Plot of the game involves her and other children of the cast going back in time to help prevent those exact events. She basically grew up on the run and is effectively the active leader of the younger characters. She runs her apocalypse.
Young Link.
I mentioned this in Scenario A already, but the Stone Mask or Gibdo Mask from Majora's Mask, that's a lot of masks, could protect him and avoid danger. This includes against hostile humans too. The stone mask basically renders him invisible to enemies, and the Gibdo mask makes undead think he's one of them. That's what I'm going with anyways, but for the sake of argument, if he didn't have those options, he's a master of pretty much any weapon he picks up. Grew up living in Kokiri Forest and having to live off the land, can transform with his transformation masks into beings that can avoid danger in environments zombies couldn't reach anyways, and he has various forms of magic to protect himself or keep threats at bay. He could also straight up rewind time to before the outbreak happens with the Ocarina of Time.
Ganondorf.
One of the most powerful sorcerers to exist, has the Triforce of Power, is invulnerable to pretty much anything that isn't a blessed holy weapon. Clearly the man runs the apocalypse how he sees fit, but his near invulnerability means I truly think nothing on our planet could turn him. Maybe in Hyrule, but not on Earth, and definitely not in Greenville, Mississippi. Do those zombies even have teeth?
Mewtwo.
In our last scenario where an outbreak happens in the Pokemon world, I came to the conclusion that Mewtwo would basically be running the show there. In our real world, with even less real threats towards it, I think Mewtwo avoids danger at the very least. Between flying, telekinesis, and mind control, how could anything be a threat, living or otherwise?
Mr. Game & Watch.
Would biting him be like biting paper? Does he have internal guts? Can he be perceived on a 3D plane? All I've got is this.
Meta Knight.
Similar power scaling and biology to Kirby, from what I can tell. I think he can't be turned.
Pit. Dark Pit.
Two sides of the same coin. It's really hard to say if they would even keep their powers. They basically receive their abilities from Palutena herself, and with them being in our dimension, would that sever any connection to her? Most likely. Even without her granting him flight and some of his other abilities, Pit is still an expert with a bow and blades, and he's deceptively strong and durable. Dark Pit is basically in the same boat, so I think both will survive just fine.
Wario!
Wario's greed would likely get him into trouble with other survivors. His laziness means he probably won't be good at fending for himself, and no matter what the manuals say, no, I don't think he's immortal just because he himself says so.
There he is, beating that dead horse!
Just like some dude with a laptop and turntable and a tent at Coachella can't call himself a musician. If those were vampires, the garlic alone would save him, but I think he's zombie chow. Feel free to watch my last zombie video for a mini rant on why I think Wario's dead meat.
Snake.
Solid Snake, Naked Snake, or Venom Snake. They all have the marksmanship and stealth abilities to deal with most threats and situations. They've proven to have survival skills too. I think, honestly, they run the apocalypse, but part of me thinks Solid Snake's aging means he won't survive long. But in to survive, for now, he goes. Metal Gear superfans, please leave a long dissertation on why he would run the apocalypse or how I screw something up. It's good for the algorithm.
Pokémon Trainer.
In the last video, I separated each character, the 3 Pokemon and the trainer. To give the 11-year-old boy a fair shot, do I give him all 3 Pokemon and send them in as a team? Let's talk about the individual components separately and then as a collective. How about that? Charizard is able to fly and can survive in extreme temperatures. Last video I said I thought it would thrive, only having to worry about zombie flying types or fire types at any given time. Doubtful any zombie bird, if we did have them, would pose a threat to Charizard, and I don't recall ever hearing about real-life lava monsters, so Charizard avoids danger. Ivysaur has access to many status moves it can use on anything, be it human, animal, or zombie. It can also heal itself through a couple different means. As something akin to a very smart, very powerful animal, I think Ivysaur survives just fine. Squirtle can live in the water. Assuming there's no zombies that can swim, it avoids danger as well. Even on land, it can retreat into its shell to more or less be safe, and it could easily protect itself against almost any threat. The trainer themselves? Zombie chow. How the hell is this kid gonna do anything? You think they know self-defense? How to use a gun? That'll tell what water is clean and what's unsafe? What if we combine all into one? The trainer brings all 3. Well, now we have something. Squirtle can potentially be a source of clean drinking water. Ivysaur could potentially help with food or shelter, and Charizard is the protection. It would seem likely some survivors would want to team up with the teenager that can control these magical beasts as well. You know what? Retreating to the Pokeballs means all the Pokemon would avoid danger. Eventually, Ivysaur and Squirtle maybe even evolve into Venusaur and Blastoise too. I think the 3 Pokemon and a decent trainer could pretty much run the apocalypse, especially with some loyal comrades.
Diddy Kong.
As a smaller monkey, I feel Diddy would be a lot better at escaping threats, whereas Donkey Kong has to usually face them head on. Diddy isn't nearly as strong or durable, I would assume, so I think Diddy also dies to other circumstances.
Sonic.
How could anyone on Earth that isn't Jim Carrey even pose a threat to him? Our roster may not be allowed to bring vehicles, but they can bring items. With the rings, he may have an option to escape off planet, and even if he didn't, nothing can catch him, be it zombie or bullet. He avoids danger either way.
King DDD.
Similar to Kirby and Meta Knight, I think he's too small and too powerful to be in any real danger. I think he can't be turned by anything on Earth.
Olimar. Oh.
These guys are small. Seriously small. Whether they bring Pikmin along with them or not doesn't matter because they're too small to be really in any danger. They can go pretty much anywhere unnoticed. Also, there's a theory that Pikmin is set on Earth because you can find a Duracell battery in branded bottle caps. These change by region and become generic no-name brands sometimes, but it's still there. As far as I know, we don't have Pikmin in our real world, but they're so small I can't say for sure. Being serious though, I think they avoid danger.
Lucario!
Lucario's aura grants it the ability to detect other beings around it. It also allows for some projectile-based attacks. As such, it can pretty much always detect any nearby threats and likely would avoid danger.
Rob!
It's a toy or a robot, meaning Rob can't be turned. Either way, zombies don't want it, survivors don't want it, and I certainly don't want it.
Toon Link!
Link might be one of the most capable survivors of surviving out on the ocean. He's been doing it for forever. With the Wind Waker, he can also change the direction of the wind, so can actually always be downwind for ascent or any sort of other practical application that may have. He's also got plenty of weapons and items at his disposal to help him out. He has shown the ability to cooperate with others as well. For these reasons, I think he thrives.
Villager! Isabel!
They may be able to survive with experience building and gardening, but unlike in Smash, they have zero combat experience. I don't think they'd have the ability, agility, or probability to avoid becoming zombie chow.
Mega Man!
He's a robot and a very tough one. Zombies would have no interest in him, humans couldn't really do much, and I don't believe he needs to eat or sleep, so Mega Man can't be turned.
We Fit Trainer!
Oh, no, 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 no.
Rosalina and Luma!
Unlike in Scenario A, where she can disappear into space, she is stuck on Earth for good. Being essentially raised by the Lumas, she isn't likely the most socially adept, so I don't think she's running any survivor groups. I do assume she knows how to tend to her own food, water, and medical needs though, as she grew up and survived just fine. Remember that Lumas only really eat star bits, something she presumably couldn't eat. I guess the question is, how would she handle herself if a horde was closing in on her? I mean, maybe her powers are strong enough to fight, or maybe she's capable of running, but I just really don't think she has what it takes and would end up as zombie chow. On the other hand, maybe she's the most powerful Mario character. She basically reset the Mario universe. I'll stick with my decision, but let me know in the comments what you think.
Little Mac!
He's fast, he can fight. I don't know almost anything about him otherwise. I just honestly think he'd be zombie chow. I don't know if he has any skill beyond athleticism, and it's probably not a good idea to punch zombies as opposed to shooting them.
Greninja!
Just like Squirtle, Greninja could more or less escape to the ocean or lake or whatever and probably avoid zombies and people altogether. As an extremely fast and agile Pokemon, I also don't think it would have a problem avoiding danger, and it's quite an effective fighter if necessary.
Palutena!
If Pit and Dark Pit God survives, she's at the very least on their level. She's more or less the one that grants Pit his powers, and she herself is more powerful in likely every way. As a goddess and leader, she'd likely have a simple time getting survivals to follow her and do so effectively. I mean, just look at her. Her magic is capable of doing many things, so she easily runs the apocalypse. I know I'd follow her anywhere, if you know what I'm saying. There's an argument she may be powerful enough that she could go into Can't Be Turned, basically the best of the best tier, but there's no real conclusiveness to it.
Pac-Man!
He could be killed by ghosts, but what the hell is he?
Shulk!
He basically recreated the universe one time, but I think it was because of his special weapon more than his own power. I'm open to being corrected, but from what I've seen, he himself is not nearly as powerful as tier lists make him out to be. That being said, he's still an excellent warrior, and the Monado grants him buffs in so many areas. Being used to fighting Mechon, essentially robots that want to eat people, in very simplistic terms, Shulk shouldn't have too much trouble here. Someone who's had to be a leader multiple times over, he certainly runs this apocalypse.
Bowser Jr.
I'll spare you from hearing all the Koopalings names being said back to back. I'm going to start with the 7 Koopalings and leave Junior separate. There actually is a good reason to do so. If we give them their flying car thingy, it definitely helps with travel and keeping them out of danger. I don't really know if they run indefinitely or if they need fuel, and for sure they need to land to get food and water. Since the Koopalings apparently aren't Bowser's biological children, I don't know if they'll change much as they age. They can retreat into their spiky shells for extra protection, and I imagine they'd be able to do some damage with their magical scepters. Though having more information, I'm going to put them into Thrives. Now Junior, on the other hand, is seemingly two big advantages over the Koopalings. The first one is his magic paintbrush from Mario Sunshine, like I mentioned in the last video. On the low end, he can create those piranha plant looking goo monsters to protect whatever he makes a stronghold. When he is in his Shadow Mario disguise, he seems to gain more or less the same athleticism Mario has. I don't know if the transformation is what's giving him those powers or if it's something he can do normally and it just changes his appearance. He can also use it to warp to different locations. I don't know how limited or limitless his power is, but I guess it's kind of good if Junior gets cornered. It can also be assumed he'll grow up to look just like his dad and have all his abilities. If Bowser ran the Apocalypse, Junior would also and likely be bumped up to avoid danger.
Duck Hunt.
It could be assumed they are based on a cartoony version of the real world. While a dog and a duck could realistically avoid zombies, the duck will probably be food for humans and the dog is an asset for most survivors who probably thrives. I'll split the difference to say the pair survives.
Ryu. Ken.
These guys are both extremely strong and fit. Not only are their fighting abilities an asset, but they have their Hadoukens as projectiles as well. While either would probably be the strongest man on our planet if they came here, I don't know if they would do much more than survive. Zombies will still be a threat, and I don't know how adept their survival skills are. In the last video, Ken's financial fortune gave him a boost because he could theoretically just buy security or safety before things got too bad. I don't think any of his money follows him here, so that bonus is gone.
Terry.
I'm going out of order again because he's in such similar circumstances as Ryu or Ken. Terry grew up fending for himself and his brother on the streets and learning to survive. He also can sense the presence of things around him, so he can't be snuck up on. Terry's survival skills and near psychic abilities put him in to thrive.
Cloud.
The super soldier from Soldier. Even in a world with hundreds of species of monsters and other superpowered humans, Cloud ended up and thrives in Scenario A. In this instance, with much weaker enemies and zombies, he's gotta go into can't be turned. If he can tank bullets, there's no way a zombie could bite him.
Bayonetta.
She's also a contender for one of the most powerful beings on this roster. She would have lived comfortably in her own world full of angels and demons, potentially even being zombified ones. Regular-ass humans, if she can shrug off a punch from basically God, she can't be turned by a bite.
Inkling.
I'm just gonna put this here. I have no idea.
Ridley.
A monstrous creature that power bombs, super missiles, and energy beams barely hurt? Of course he can't be turned. Guns are useless too.
Simon. Richter.
This is actually really interesting. There's almost no characters that have it harder in Scenario B compared to the first video unless they lost their vehicles or are Simon and Richter. And it's for very weird reasons too. In their world, they are constantly having to destroy night creatures and undead as well as saving the world often. I had said that due to the lower population that is also very aware of the dangerous monsters on the prowl means that the zombie plague probably wouldn't really be able to spread. Logically, Simon or Richter could plausibly take out the problem before it's a problem. In Scenario B, they're getting transported into the middle of a post-apocalyptic Earth. I think they could handle themselves just fine against a zombie horde, that's not an issue. I will say I don't think the holy weapons will have an effect against them like they would demons and such though. Do they really know how to act against a hostile group of survivors? I don't know if they'd be willing to kill other humans, at least initially. Would they know the dangers of a modern gun? If they were prepared for it, they certainly have inhuman reaction speed, but would they be prepared? Could they communicate effectively with more modern English when they're assumably from Wallachia, aka Romania allegedly? Assuming that they're in North America anyways. That's both for negotiations and de-escalations. Weirdly, it's the unfamiliarity of modern Earth that affects them the most. Honestly, they are still extremely capable and I think both thrive, but it's what takes them down from the top.
King K. Rool.
DK and Diddy beat him in every game, and if they're low on the tier list, he should be lower, right? Well, it's kind of a rock, paper, scissors situation in this case. As a Kremling, he's essentially a crocodile, so he can pretty much live in the water. He's also scaly with a near invulnerable stomach. I don't think anything will be able to bite him. He's got a thicker hide to help with getting attacked. His gigantic stature is probably enough to scare off almost any human, so I think he at least runs the apocalypse. See, I didn't forget him this time.
Incineroar.
Being that they're essentially smarter, stronger bipedal tigers that love Hulk Hogan a little too much, they can certainly be a force to reckon with. Add to that some fire abilities and they're downright dangerous. The problem is, if we look at their learn set, almost every move requires them to get in close, which is dangerous when facing zombies or people with guns. It would probably die to other circumstances. I'll give it the benefit of the doubt and assume it has a move like Flamethrower or Dark Pulse equipped, and this brings it up to survives.
Piranha Plant.
Excuse me, what?
Joker.
If you saw the last video, you could try and argue that his metaverse powers somehow help him in his own world. The metaverse doesn't exist for anyone not named Mark Zuckerberg in our world though, so this nearsighted scrawny teenager is Zombie Chow.
Hero.
I can be your hero, baby.
of them have various magic spells at their disposal and are skilled with swords. Combined with the ability to heal their injuries and teleport to previously visited locations, they should be able to thrive.
Banjo and Kazooie!
I don't know if it's a rareware protagonist thing, but I don't know how many options they have to survive here. I don't doubt that as animals they could scavenge for food and shelter wouldn't be much of a concern necessarily. The thing is, as a bear, even a smaller cartoony bear, Banjo would be seen as a threat to most humans. The moment someone saw him, he would probably be shot. Kazooie has different problems. You don't think humans would want to shoot and eat the giant bird? Even if she did speak to them, who's going to trust an anthropomorphic bear and the demonic talking bird? They don't have the cute factor and are overly overpowered, so humans are the biggest danger here. Zombies aren't the biggest threat here, so they die to other circumstances.
Min Min!
Unlike in the world ARMS takes place in, she's not going to have access to new gloves or whatever they're called after they break. I don't know if the fighters need to get maintenance done on their masks, but if they do, that means her arms would switch between normal and the spiral biology at random if they ever stop working. Also, without a mask, she can't control her arms themselves. Now that's speculation, but even with a mask, she doesn't have anything fatal to kill a zombie, never mind multiple. The ARMS League doesn't have death matches, so clearly her punches can't be that deadly, so she's zombie chow.
Steve! Alex!
How weird would it be to see these weird block people in real life?
No, God! No, God, please, no! No!
And no, Steve wouldn't end up looking like Jack Black in this situation. In the world of Minecraft, the characters can build and destroy things within seconds, and materials can be mined and collected in moments. It's basically just a quirk of their world. In our real world, swinging a pickaxe into the ground or hitting a tree with an axe would take forever and not even get them the resources they think. They're basically weird-shaped humans that can't accomplish in our world what they could in theirs. They're zombie chow. The Enderman skin goes into question marks because I have no idea where to begin. And the zombie isn't a zombie unless it is a zombie, but not one of these zombies, and probably can't become one of these zombies unless they can become one of these zombies.
Oh no, I've gone cross-eyed.
Sephiroth!
Sephiroth is powerful enough that I don't see how gunfire and zombie bites even phase him. Obviously, he doesn't have his connection to the life stream like in his reality, so it definitely limits his regenerative abilities. Even if he lost his godlike power, he was still one of the most skilled and powerful super soldiers in Soldier. I'm gonna say he can't be turned.
Pyra! Mithra!
Now, I would say can't be turned, remember my addendum in the beginning? But if Rex doesn't come with them, which he isn't, they're without a driver and therefore can't really function. They go back into question marks after just escaping him because we don't really know.
Kazuya!
Sora is deceptively powerful for a teenage boy and has so many spells and abilities at his disposal. He can technically tank gunfire as shown on multiple occasions and likely knows how to cook thanks to Little Chef. Also, he has free heals from really any sort of damage. He can probably handle threats from our box standard Earth zombies with ease versus any potentially more powerful threats in his universe. His naivete and trusting nature is his biggest weakness here. His earnest optimism would see him make allies and help those that need it quite often, but it could also lead to the cutthroat types taking advantage of him. Could be poisoned or possibly still killed by hostile groups. I can't say for 100% sure that he's bulletproof. It could be just a game mechanic, or if a zombie bite could penetrate his skin. The Keyblade makes sure that he can magically lock or unlock any locks in the world though. There's no way he'll ever be without a powerful weapon as he can summon it to his hand by will even if someone else is holding it. It's a tough one as he's potentially powerful enough for can't be turned, but naive and inexperienced enough that he could die to other circumstances. I think Thrives is a good middle ground. That's still a really good place to be at, and hopefully my reasoning is sound with you. Speaking of Sora, stay tuned and subscribe because Sora, at least something related to him, will be the topic of my next video. Well, that's all folks. Here's a side-by-side of fighters rankings in Scenario A versus Scenario B if you're curious. If you haven't seen Scenario A, please check it out and you can see why some things are so different. Did you agree with my logic and placement for everyone? I'm not the final authority here, so if you felt someone got snubbed or I put more faith in someone than I should have, please let me know in the comments and we'll get this conversation going. If you liked what you've seen here, please feel free to watch another video. I try my best to make something in-depth and unique. I'd appreciate it if you'd like, comment, and subscribe as that helps out a ton, and if you'd like, you can also check out my Patreon for some exclusive perks. Thanks for watching and don't forget to wake the windfish.